Hello guys, and welcome back to another video. So in this series we're going to create a banking application, and it's going to be a desktop application, and the modules that we're going to be covering are these ones. First, the members module, add members, edit them, contribution modules, that is the members are going to be contributing money to the bank. We have the loans module. If for instance somebody wants to take a loan, of course we have to check for their histories, the payment schedules, loan products, dashboard reports, user management. These are the people who are able to access our software, the settings, here's module, and all these modules are going to be implementing them. So today what you're going to be doing is we're going to add a users module, of course, for the people to be able to access the software, maybe add users, add members, and so on. So we're going to start with the users module. So I have a very basic application here. As you can see, I'm using Fyne. Now just initializing this simple application. I have the assets here. Of course, there's going to be the logo of the application. I also have some helper function for the layout, and so on. So let's get started. I just want to run this application first so you can see looks like. So these modules are going to be implementing them step by step. Okay, going to be implementing one by one, and then we can then we deploy our application. Okay, so that's how the application looks like. I think we can start adding. So the first thing we're going to add is we have to add a way we can be able to connect to our database. So I'm just going to create a folder here called utils, because we can add our DB program there. Okay, now we need MongoDB. Of course, we're using MongoDB for the storage. So I'm just going to come here, install the package for that. See, I'm going to initialize connect DB, where we'll be connecting to the database. Then we also add a new function that can be used to get connections. So I'm just going to define a client here. Window for playing our errors and so on. I'm going to define the context. Before cancelling the connection, done. Define my client options. let's say and if there is an error, we're going to set the dialog. Initializing the MongoDB connection, we have to ping the database to verify that the connection has happened. Ping was successful. I'm just going to say empty. The DB, but I can inform the DB is successfully connected, and then I can then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to define a function that can allow me to get connection with DB, of course. This will help me to make my the data and add the data to the just return. And for the database motion finance. Okay. Getting some errors here. Let's say go edit, but I can install this option. And then now we're going to use this function to ensure that we are connecting to the database. So I can just come here. The DB, and just the utils. Looks DB. Also going to set our AI. Since mine currently it's local, the local host, I'm just going to say MongoDB. we can test it out so that we see that it's successfully connecting to the database. Yes, yeah, the connection is successful. Okay, now after connecting the database, the next thing we're supposed to do is we have to start creating our models. I'm just going to add a new what I am going to create models. Let's go to user.go. Let's have H models. So for the users, what I want to add is be able to have a user ID, of course. Let's have the username, full name, phone number, and the role. Let's say type user fact. Remember, the first thing we're going to have is the ID. It will be a primitive object ID. Let's say this one. The next thing we have the username, the string, this one. Full name, phone, plus their phone number. The next thing we can include the role, also role of accessing whether an admin. You can see here, we come to the user module here, the admin, treasurer, auditor, clerk. On then the last one we can add maybe the password. Just the user password, and it's going to be hashed. So we have the username, the full name, the phone, the role, and the password. So that's the user model. So the next thing we're supposed to do is we have to now define the function for registering a user, and also define the function for logging in user. So I'm just going to add another folder here. So to call it auth. I can just call it auth.go. So this function here, this module is going to contain the auth module is going to the auth package is going to contain functions to logging in a user and to register a new user and to logging a new user. So basically we're going to add a lot of helper functions like for hashing a password, checking a password. So the first thing we're supposed to do is supposed to install bcrypt. I'm going to install bcrypt first because it's used for hashing passwords. I'm going to install this one. Okay, I've successfully installed bcrypt. So let us start. So the first function I'm going to define is a function to passwords. Passwords, of course, we're going to supply the password. And of course, we're going to return hashed password error. Okay. I'm going to hit the bytes. Which get passwords. The password. The function for hashing password. Then we also do checking hash password. This function will do to compare a user typed passwords. I'm going to pass the password. I'm going to return a boolean so that if they match, okay, if they don't, this one of message is decrypt. Compare password. Let's apply the byte hash. The user password. And that works fine. The error is going to be nil. Okay. Now we're going to define the function to register a user. Call it register. Now, based on our models, we're going to supply the username, the full name, the phone, the role, and the password, and the ID that will help later in accessing this user or editing them. We have the username, the full name, the role, phone, and the password. Of course, I'm going to return an error in case funny. First thing, we have to hash the password. Of course, using the function we have defined above, the hash password, and of course I'm going to pass the password in there, not equal to nil. Also going to return the error. Then next thing, we're going to define our user. Then we can just models dot user. Of course, our user has the first one is ID. This one is going to be generated. Just going to be generated by MongoDB for us. So primitive with new object ID. Then we have the username. Also going to supply the username. Then we have the full name. We're going to supply the full name. Enter the phone. Enter the role. We're going to have the password as hashed password. Okay. Then we're going to define our user collection. Going to say utils get collection. Now this is the importance of the function that we've defined, this helper function. This db function here, because we are defining the database here so that we don't have to define it again over there. And the user collection. Then now we can register a new user. Just going to say user collection, insert one, the context, the document that we're going to insert, and you're going to return R. So we'll use this later when you're registering a new user. And then the next thing, we can define a function to log in a user. So when I want to log in a user, we're just going to use username and the password. Okay, just going to say username, password, then we're going to return the user so that we can grab them. Okay, so that we can grab the logged in user, because we'll use those details to grab specific details. And I'm also going to say collection, going to be utils, got collection users. Just going to save our user. I need to find the user based on this, the username. Okay, based on the username. After you have successfully provided the username, I'm going to find you based on the username. To handle some errors, so that if there is no Mongo errors, we're going to also tell you, so that if we have not found that particular username, also need to inform the user. It goes to maybe Mongo dot add. There is no document, the error. So we're going to return a nil user. Of course, we have an error now because we've not found it. Then return the error. Okay. Is also return nil for the user, that particular error. Okay. Now after, if we have successfully found, you have to check that the password you have supplied plus and the password that is in the database, they match. So I'm just going to use check password hash, because we just supplied password, user dot password. And the good thing with MongoDB is that all these, the check decrypts handling it fast. So we just supply the hashed password, user supply, but it's handling on. So in case it's false, it's going to return no user. Then I'm going to say that there are no documents. That is because the two don't match. Otherwise, if everything is fine, I'm going to return the user with no error. Okay. So now we have our helper functions. Now these helper functions are going to help us in adding our UI values. Now the first thing we're supposed to do now is to create our login view. We're also going to add our register view. Okay, so that once you successfully register, you can be shown the login view. Okay, so we're going to come here. I'm going to add views. Go to add views, and then I'm just going to say login. Go. Okay, login. Just say login. Yeah. Okay. In this case, I'm going to supply the window. Of course, going to be Fyne.window. Okay, Fyne window. Then I'm just going to find the container. Okay. So when we come back here to display the login view first. So for now, as you can see, our content is just set to hello world. In this case, I'm just going to say I'm going to set my content to views dot login view. Okay, and I'm going to supply the window. So I'm just going to back here and say going to return dot new back. This pass container here center. Then I can pass a widget with new label login view. Okay, so before we start working on it, we can make sure that it's working. So login view. Then in the same, I'm just going to copy this, paste it. I'm going to rename it, call it ledger register. I'm just going to come down, say register view. The register view as well. So since these two are successfully working, we're going to now add a login view. We're going to add more details to the login view. So what we should know about the login view is that we're going to have username and a password. Of course, those are going to be input filter. Okay, so let's add the view now. So the first thing we're going to have a username entry. We're also going to have a password entry, and then we're going to have a login button. Okay, of course, and a register button. So we can start with the username entry. Then you can say widget new entry. Okay, you can just say username entry. Set. I'm just going to add a placeholder. I'm just going to say username. Okay, and just copy that. And I'm just going to, this is going to be as a password. Say password. Okay, after capturing the username entry, of course, there's an entry widgets. I'm going to also display a login button. I'm going to call it login. Of course, going to be a new button. I'm going to call it login. Login. I'm going to supply the function. The login button. to supply the details, of course. Let's copy this as well. I'm going to call this a register button. When you are in the login view, you should be able to see the register view as well. Okay, able to see the register view. Now, when we click the register view, of course, we need to see the register view, or say window, let's set content, get the content, register view, okay, and the window. Okay, and then after showing these two, I'm just going to define my form here. How these three are going to be nice. I'm just going to have container, that's new, view box. Okay, we're going to have the username entry, we're going to have the password entry, we're going to have the login button, we're going to have the register. So that's how they're going to be aligned. Then now I can get rid of this label. Then I'm going to pass in my form on this so that I can see how it looks like. Okay, now everything is displayed well. Register good. Now we need to center it, so I can just say centered form. Then I'm going to use the layout. Let's say helpers. Fit with layout. Let's apply the form with a width of 300. And just say centered form. I can run it again. Yes, now the form is centered well. Now let's add the login register view as well. I can come back here. There is not much difference here. I'm just going to copy this. Now the only difference is that now in the register we're going to have the username, the password. Then we're just going to have the phone entry. Now the phone entry. Then we're going to have the password entry. Our password is already full name. So I have the full name. Just for registering. Full name. So we have the full name, we have the username, we have phone, password. Then now we need the role. Now for the role, we're going to have select. Okay, so just can say role entry. Then we're going to have a widget with new select. Okay, now for the case of select, we're going to have a list of options. So in my case, I don't want to type in this from this particular view. So I'm going to define a variable that's going to be global, because for global, so I'm going to just come here and add a global file here, global.go. Let's call it package helper. Then I'm going to define a couple variables. Let's call it once. Going to be a list of strings. In my case, I'm just going to have for now admin use. Okay, I'm just going to come back here. Then I'm going to say helpers roles. The roles. And then you're also going to supply action string. Then I'm just going to say role entry. Set selected. Set selected to help us. The first one. Okay. So now we have the username, full name, on the password, the entry. Now this is not going to be. It's going to be register button. It's going to be login button. Register. Going to be login. I'm going to have login view. Going to have login view. So let's run it. Okay. Then name entry. Then we have one thing. Then we have the role entry. Okay. Okay. Register. Okay. Register. Yes. So our UI is done. Now we need to add some functionality. Please now. So let's come to the login view first, so that we can add the logic now. So we're going to come into the login button here. Then the first thing we have to do, we have to capture the username and the password. Let's go to say username. And then we can say username entry, put text, and the password as well. The password entry, dot text. Now we want to ensure that these two fields are entered. So I'm just going to say if username is not equal to nil, or password not equal to, so it's not nil, it should be empty. Okay, if these two are empty, we have to display to the user and log information, user login, and then going to tell the user all fields are required. And by the window. Okay. If all these two fields are required and log them, then you just can say user, because when you're logging in, we're returning the user. Okay, just can say auth login. For the login, we're going to supply the username, the password. Okay, then we're going to handle these errors. And let's say if r not equal to nil, going to check and ensure that there's a document, there is a particular document, and also tell the user it show information. Okay. Then we're going to tell the particular user that it does not exist. So just need to have, of course, this is a string, but it can be able to particular user. Let's supply the username by the okay. Else if the error after successful logging in, you want to set the user ID aside. Okay, setting it aside will help us because it will use us, we can use it later on. So we can come back here and define a variable here. Going to say current user ID, the primitive object ID. And I'm going to say help us with current user ID. Because if it has successfully, then we're going to capture the user from the ID. Okay, then we can maybe show dialog. You see this dialog means we have successfully logged in. User using by the window. Okay, so when the login is successful, we're going to say this, we're going to set the user ID because we use it later on. We're going to say successful. Try this out. Download, let's try logging in. It's required. It's supposed to be that. Deal with that later on. But now let me add the try creating a new user. Then after successful, let's check this title successful. Because I can okay, because the user already actually after logging in, okay. So be able to register a new user. I'm going to add the register logic, so you can come back here to the user. Full name, full name entry. Then we have the font entry. Font entry. Then we have all. Font entry. Now for this role, this should be selected. So we have the full name, the username, we have the phone, we have password. In this case, you have to ensure that all these are captured. So username, copy. You have to ensure. So it's full name. Full name on. All. Username, phone, all, and user register. Okay. So after all that is successful, when you are registering, you don't need to return a user, just need an error. Let's say register. I need the username. The next field is the full name. They have to follow each other just exactly. Then we have role, our phone, and password. Okay. So after that, we're going to come here. Now, I'm going to remove this one. So one of the errors that you mostly encounter is having duplicates, especially username. And remember, we said username going to be using it to find a particular user, so we don't want duplicates. So I'm going to handle that. I'm just going to say if Mongo is duplicate key error. Okay, by that error, I'm going to display a dialog. Show information. I'm going to say duplicate username. I'm going to apply the details. Sprint, of course, for combining. Let's say username. I'm just going to supply the username. Don't duplicate username. Already lists. Apply the username. Okay. Otherwise, if there is no duplicate, we have a different kind of an error. I just want to show it to you. And mention. Okay. Let's apply the title. But we'll be able to know where the error is occurring. Save that. User. Because I should be able to know why. I'm just going to say error by the window. Then else, because we don't need this. If the register is successful, and this register successful. Come here and say maybe okay. Then after we've successfully registered, now we have to display the login. So you can just say window, get content, login view. Okay, login view. Now let's try this out. Okay. So we have to register a new account. Let's call it maybe JDO. The person is just going to be okay. Successfully register, and then you can just say so. Yes. Okay. Now we have successfully set up the login and the register. Now there's one thing I want to add. I want to ensure that when somebody has successfully logged in, they should be redirected. To the dashboard. Okay. I'm going to add another view here. I'm going to call it dashboard. Go. Go to supply. Get views. Now let's go to call. I'm just going to leave the window. Find that window. I'm going to return the file that contain just in the top is going to be name, what I need for the left name, the right name. Just going to provide a widget table labeling. So when we successfully log in, we're going to the dashboard. So we need to add a new, need to pass dashboard to this login so that when it's successful and we redirect, so I can just show dashboard because it's going to be a fun. To come down here, then after we've set the user, we need to show the dashboard. So now this one has to be passed here as well. Dashboard. Assets. Here. Dashboard. Okay. That's what dashboard. It to Let's come here. The function as well. I'm going to say just window, get contents, views, login view, let's apply the window, show. Actually, I'm just going to go reload this initially so that your application initially going to show the log. We can run this, ensure that our application is affected. So I can click on login, login, I've added a new play the wrong password. Everything is fine. Then when you log in, you have successfully hit a dashboard. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add is the sidebar, other details, the logout button. So guys, for today we're going to stop there. Then the next video we're going to be adding more. So make sure to subscribe for more details.